So, I realized my mistake while reading the first 2 Witcher books is that I cannot follow all of the words, the places, the politics, the back and forth, the jumping from one scene to the next, things like that. So I got smart by reading the 3rd book, and I decided, let me try using a map with it, right? So I went and Googled for like a map, and I found this one, and it looks like it works for the most accurate. So I decided to use that. I'm going to recap it as we go on. So this will help me understand what's going on for the next book. I think I'm going to do that for the next few ones out. So anyway, when the story starts, it picks up from the last time Geralt is recovering in the Brokilon Forest, and we actually start off with Derp. I want to say Geralt, he is the main focus, but he's not. When the story starts, we actually start off with Milva's point of view, and you know, she is the first party member, and she's over here just hunting, taking her time, and this is what got me hooked on this story, is the excellent prose when she's using the bow. You know, it's my favorite weapon, and the way they describe how she uses it is, I needed to read more. And that's reluctantly, at first he doesn't want to go with Geralt. She tells him what she hears about where Ciri is holed up with the Emperor in Nilfgaard, and he wants to marry her and all this, and Geralt's like, oh no, that can't happen. So and this is where we start. They finally she decides she's going to go with him because he's going to get his ass killed. And they come out here and they start around the ribbon. The story goes back and forth around here for a while. And I believe it's around here, you know, because Dandelion is with him too. No, I can't remember why or when he got a wind of that. And these are the places we're going to talk about. But yes, so they come out around Milva, and it turns out, you know, the army's fighting right around here. They have all this wind of there's smoke in the distance, there's fire, there's people going crazy, there's all kinds of chaos going on, and it's Nilfgaard. They want to take everything. They're coming from the south, they're coming to the north, and Geralt is just trying to go around it. They want to go around it, really. And well, by this time, that's our party. This is our party. We have 3 people in the party already. So, and that's the thing. Okay, the army's fighting, and then it's just like, it's real chaos. The more they go on, they realize these places, they get wind of it through other people. They say, oh, this place has been taken, this place is taken, this place is on fire, this one is destroyed. And it's just boom, 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 boom. They're making their way around, and it's kind of ridiculous. So they go through the hills because they want to avoid the battle. They can't go north towards Brugge because Nilfgaard is fighting right there, and so they're getting pushed back down towards the hills, and it's a bit ridiculous. This keeps happening. They keep getting forced onto a certain path just because of the army and the war, which is nice. And they make these plans. They try to discuss, like, what are we gonna do? And they want to follow the Chotla River down to the mouth of the Ina, because they say there's Armeria is there, and for some reason they think that's gonna help them, you know, and it very well might. But let's see. And also, they meet Zoltan along the way, and our bro Zoltan, he's just riding along with his dwarves and through the woods, and there's a couple of times where they meet a few people and they don't actually stay with them. Like Cahir, for instance, they meet him, and in the woods they save him accidentally, not realizing who it is. And the girl says, "Screw him! I don't want to take him with us because he tried to kidnap Ciri and all this." So they leave him behind, and they let him go into the woods also. And in the woods they also meet Zoltan, who was on their way, not their way from Mahakam, but they have all this cargo with them. They said the new king in Mahakam is crazy and they don't want nothing to do with him. They don't agree with his views and all this, but they still need to make a living. So Dandelion, our little gossiper here, he tells them that, I think they're going to start a business. So what they bury is they want to come back later on and get their business stuff going on. And it's like, okay, that sounds suspicious, but okay. So they just deal with it. And then while they're running around, that's basically what it is. They're running around. Okay, it takes a long time on horseback. I just nah. And then we have number 5. So still, they're okay. Yes, as of page 91, they're heading down the river to the Chola because they're going to the east, and they're gonna follow. They're heading down this river, and their plan is to follow this one down here to meet Armeria right here. And then while they're doing that, they're trying to debate whether they want to go through the moors or they can go south and rest at Fin Karn here, and Geralt is adamant about avoiding the moors. He does not want to go through the moors because he hears all these stories about how dangerous it is, and so he says, okay, let's stop and let's rest at Stonehenge. So they do that, and also the women that the dwarves are carrying in their party come from Kurnow over here. It's some people they've stopped and I don't want to say rescued, but they just kind of picked up along the way, and they're not in a big rush to get out of their encampment because Zoltan and his bros are kind of nice to the dwarves, and this catches Geralt's attention, as he figures he might not be a bad guy if he's got these women and children with him, and he's not slave driving them. Anyway, he's in the party now. Should we say we add him? Yeah, so by the time they rest at Fin Karn, that's who we are. We have Milva, Dandelion, no, not Cahir yet. Speaking of Cahir, he keeps coming out. He keeps trying again. He says, "Oh, let me join you guys. I want to help." Geralt says, "No, get out of here." So he leaves again. And third time they come, they find his horse, his bloody horse pass, and they assume, oh, he's probably dead. Like, oh, good for him, he's probably dead. But anyway, so they stop and they rest here, and this is when they meet Bro Regis. He's suspiciously right to be. They're freaking out because they're like, oh, this is a resting place. This is a peaceful place. This is where race and ghouls and stuff all hide out. Cemetery, and they start getting spooked. They're like, oh my god, Geralt, we hear something over here. And Geralt, in his best annoyed voices ever, he says, I'm okay. Let me go check it out for you. But we'll see if it's a wraith or whatever. So he goes over there, and it turned out the little noise that they were hearing was actually Regis stalking around picking herbs, and he explains it. He gives a good explanation, really. He's a doctor, and his home is actually in Dillingen, right down here, but he's come up here because this is where he likes to stay on vacation, and he likes to be away from all this fighting and the nonsense and stuff going on. His business isn't doing good, but he likes to come here because he has a little cottage nearby, and this is where he wants to do his stuff, so it's not a big deal. But they don't really trust him much at first, which is understandable, but he manages to invite them into his cottage where he uses his doctor skills and comes up with his best brew ever, this alcohol. and it's like moonshine, kind of, really, but it's like 100% alcohol. And they have a great time. They sit around and they talk too much, especially Dandelion, which annoys the shit out of Geralt. He hates it because Dandelion's always telling everybody his business. But and then they ask him questions, and then they get kind of personal with it, but it's not a big deal. They think Geralt's annoyed, but he's fine. He's fine. But when he goes outside, he has a moment and he realizes that at their rate they're going right now, it'd take 1 year and 4 months to get down to Nilfgaard. Can you understand that? Look at to get from right here to all the way down here in this map would take over 1 year and 4 months. That is a ridiculous amount. Could you imagine the time it must take just to go from here to here? And when you're trying to chase somebody like Ciri, who's constantly on the move, there is no chance that you're just going to happen to run into her when she's idle. That's ridiculous. Cell phone would really be useful right about now. Like, hey, where you at? Okay. So, they're getting kind of worried about their plan here, as they should be, because at this rate they are not going to find Ciri accidentally running into her. And Geralt says, "Oh, I want to go by myself," and all this, and they have a moment where everybody gets kind of pissed at him because he gets in this brooding mood where he says, "Oh, I'm by myself. I don't need no one. I want to go on and leave y'all behind and all this." And then Regis talks to him, has this long conversation about, it's okay to have friends. Dandelion gets pissed because he thought he was a friend this whole time and that he wouldn't be left behind. Milva also gets a bit pissed, because she chose to come out of her safe place in the forest to go with Geralt. And, so they basically just force. They say, look, we're going with you whether you like it or not, but you like it. We know you do. So, before... Okay. Let's see. Where do they go from here? In the morning, they get ready to ride, and, I don't know, every girl must know this right away, okay? But Milva, she just starts blah. It's like she's throwing up in the morning. First they think, oh, she must have drank way too much, and she's totally wasted. But everybody else is okay, kind of, and even Regis looks at her funny, and he's a doctor. Every girl right away knows that Milva is just pregnant, okay? And I was kind of confused at first, because I'm like, people's been traveling for a while. Maybe not 9 months, but when did this happen? Okay. Anyway. And they run to some villagers who are like, it's just some kids really on the side of the road. Like, oh, we're hunting a vampire. And they get really entertained for the moment. And they're like, oh, really? Tell us more about vampires. And they say, then they suddenly want Milva's horse because it's a black horse. And the story goes that if you have a black horse, it'll lead you around on the gravestones and pinpoint the vampire's location. Okay, I have never heard this theory before, but we're starting good, boys. Milva gets pissed, punches the guy, and they get in this argument, blah, 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 blah. Take me to your leader. So they go to the village, and there's this crazy priest, about to burn a woman alive, because he is, preaching about vampires and the bad guys, and, what they have to do in witchcraft, especially witches and stuff like that. And I will admit, at first I was really suspicious of this priest, just because he comes out of nowhere into a village of nowhere, and he starts hounding on his beliefs, and it's suspicious. It really is. But luckily, they make a big fool out of him, and Zoltan even puts a hot iron down his pants, which it seems like a little bit of harsh punishment for me, but it's funny when it's not happening to you. You know what I mean? Okay, and at this point, Regis they get to like this dumb grade school argument where they're like, oh, if you want to save her, then you can prove that you're blessed by God or whatever. The Regis is like, I'll do it. He grabs the hot coal. He walks across the hot coal or something, and he's not burned or at all. And like, oh wow, must be a miracle. Like, yeah, because that's legit. And then and suddenly Nilfgaard comes in and ruins this whole grade school fight, and everybody's going crazy. They're going crazy, and in the midst of that battle, Geralt and Dandelion are together, and they are taken captive because of Dandelion's smart words yet again. He's like, "Oh, I'm the great bard, and I know you're leader and all this. So whatever." They take Geralt and Dandelion all the way from the village to Armeria, just bound, their hands bound, walking behind horses this whole time. And I would be pissed, understandably, if I got to this place and they're like, "Oh, sorry, it's a mistake," like, "Oh no problem." No, no, no. Okay. But anyway, they get there and they have a problem with the commander. He's got something against Ciri and Geralt, and he don't want to let him go or whatever. But there's a bit of a pissing contest going on here because this guy and this guy are both leaders from separate parties, and he don't want to let him go. But he wants to let him go, but he can't let him know that he wants to let him go. Whatever. So anyway, around this time, so we say, Milva gets into some trouble. And Cahir, who has been following them again this whole time, shows up and saves her ass. So this time, they do let him join the party. And Cahir is in the party. For now. While Geralt lets it happen. And then... But yes, their whole plan after that, Regis had an idea. He said that they could go over here to this Kaidu. It's the seat of the druids, and they would know what to do. And that was their plan before they got taken kidnapped. What is that? Taken captive over here. Okay. And But Regis actually sneaks in using his powers. He sneaks in and he just says, "I'm gonna do it. Y'all just don't worry about it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get Geralt out there." No. So he sneaks in, and then that's the moment when they realize, oh, Regis has been this vampire they're talking about. But he saved them, so they leave and they say, "Look, we don't want to see you again." Okay. At this point, they're running out of Armeria, and they're going through woods. I mean, there's no woods right here. I mean, they could be going through this forest, but the way they made it sound is as they're running south. But they're through some woods, and they run into Nilfgaard again. And it's back and forth. Either the guys from Armeria are chasing them back down, and Nilfgaard's coming up from the south, and they're closing in on them in the middle. So they run off to the side over here, and I guess that's when they run into the woods. But basically over here, is Nilfgaard. They go along the river when they meet up again with the party, and Milva has some explaining to do about Cahir saving his ass and all that, and Geralt says, "Okay, whatever, he can come." And what they do is they see along the rivers and the forest is that Nilfgaard has been cutting down timber to use for their product and stuff. So they have to avoid all the people just working in there, and they go through the East Gith to avoid that. But on the way, they have a good plan. They say, "Oh, let's take a boat, and we can just sail up to Kaidu or whatever, right along the Yaruga." But so they do that, and I mean, just so happens they run into a boat that has been sitting there, and I don't want to say threaten, because that's not what heroes do, but they book a ride on it, And then they're going up. And at the same time, on this side over here, they have more Nilfgaard. More Nilfgaardians. And then they see them. And then as they're going up the river, they kind of, Rivia has kind of branched out also. So now there's Rivia's knights are fighting Nilfgaardian knights. Dandelion recognizes Rivia's colors, shall we say. There's a moment in here that's really strange. I don't know if I like it or not, but they're talking about where their names come from, their titles. Dandelion absolutely refuses to give his up, and I'm so mad about that. I wanted to know more about what his name is, where's his background and stuff, but I'm gonna let it go for now. And we know Kahir's name. He can't stop repeating it. But apparently it's Nilfgaardian to them, and Milva, we know her name pretty much. She's the only one who actually had some kind of news to give. This would have been a really good conversation if everybody was honest, but nobody was. And then Geralt, finally, they ask Geralt, they say, oh, where does your title come from? Geralt of Rivia. And he says, oh, I just made it up. And it's like, what? He says he just made it up because he needed something that sounded good, and it sounded better than the other options. And just that, I don't know, for some reason that kind of, I don't want to say ruined it for me, but I know it was supposed to be hilarious at this point, and it kind of is, but at the same time, I'm like, man, he could have had like an awesome backstory to begin with. But at that moment, it just so happens when he's fighting, this is when the battle on the bridge takes place. Okay? They're not past Kaidu yet, because that's your destination, so it's somewhere on the Yaruga in between here. It seemed like they had been sailing for weeks, but again, this map is crazy big, so it was very possible. The forces are on both sides, and they realize they can't get past this bridge because there's people fighting on it and around it, and the boat's too big. So Geralt says, okay, we have to get out and we have to fight. So they do, because Milva's pregnant, and Geralt has become really sensitive about her situation along the journey. He wanted to leave her behind. She said no. She got mad. So he's been like hell-bent on protecting her and her baby, because there's another sensitive topic in here. She didn't want it, okay, because she only got pregnant because she thought she was going to die, so she slept with the people that was around her in that one time. And I mean, you kind of understand, it's not a baby that was made out of love or something, but it's still her kid, and Geralt wants her to feel like she deserved it. And they had a big talk, and she finally changed her mood all of a sudden, like she realized the light, and she decided, oh, I do want to keep this baby. So, but it's not good, because she's on horseback, and she's fighting, and she's drinking, and of course there's blood at one point. Geralt loses his mind, so he jumps off this ship while they're all fighting around the Yaruga, and him and Cahir, actually, they team up. After all this time of hating each other, they team up, and Cahir finally becomes useful. He uses his old Nilfgaardian commander voice and calms Rivia's people down to be able to go back and fight Nilfgaard, and they manage to overtake Nilfgaard. And the Queen of Rivia, okay, is it Meve or is it Meve? People say Meve, but I feel like Meve, it just has a more elegant sound. Anyway, the Queen, she admires, their ability to come in and help them when they didn't have to. And Geralt this whole time has this mindset of, wow, why am I here? I don't even want to be fighting in this battle. I don't care who wins. And yet he doesn't say this out loud, which is also very strange to me. It's this book is a time when I'm starting to realize I wanted more of Geralt's point of views after the first couple books were not of Geralt, but now that I have his point of view in these books, I'm not really agreeing with like anything that he's thinking of. Okay, and I know he's all like, oh, Witcher mutations don't bother me, blah 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 blah, but that's no excuse to be a douchebag. Okay, No reason to snap at your friends. No reason to say, "Oh, I don't want to help nobody." I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, the queen recognizes him, and she asks, "Oh, you've never been knighted before." When she asks him about his title too, this time he says, "Oh, I'm actually Geralt of Nowhere," which is strange to me because he knows that she's Geralt of Rivia, and he can't tell her that he's Geralt of Rivia because she would know that he's never been given that title. So that's also another thing really strange to me that I do not like. But she decides, okay, well, you do now. And she tells him to kneel. He does, and then she actually gives him the title of Geralt of Rivia. And it ends on that. It ends with that, with him smirking like at this irony. And I think it's extremely clever that happened. But I just can't get past that whole deception part of his name. Shall we say? You can't just call yourself a title, okay? But I'm gonna let it go because it really was a clever way to end. And I think my favorite part of this book was somewhere over here when they were getting ready to leave and they were just casually hanging around. They were cooking dinner, and Geralt was pouting because he wanted to be alone again. And then Dandelion and Milva were making dinner, and they got on his ass hard. Like, they roasted him. They were just roasting him like, "Oh, look at me. I'm Geralt. I have so many problems. Oh, no, don't ask him anything because he has problems, remember?" And they were roasting him for like a good 3 pages. That has to be the best shit ever. Dandelion's like, "Listen, go peel some vegetables and make yourself useful." And he actually does. It was great. That was the best part of this book. But yes, this map has actually helped me understand and read the book. Now that you could tell what's going on. So I think I'm going to do this from now on. But it's crazy because that whole book takes place in this one section, of this huge map. And like it's crazy. We have no idea what's going on over here, besides what they gossip about sometimes and what they hear. Like, oh, this place has been taken, this section has been taken. But just that whole book takes place in this one little area of this huge world, which is crazy to me. And and then I guess I didn't mention at this point that Ciri is running around. She's around here. Let's see. I saw where she was, but she's on the go. She's non-stop. She's let's see if I could see where she's at. I actually don't remember, but she's running around here. They're, I want to say close, but not really. At the rate this is going, he'd never catch her unless they just happen to be at the same place at the same time. But Ciri's on a constant running around with the rats. They go from village to village like Robin Hood, just making merry and stealing stuff, but they're not really as well liked as Robin Hood. And that's about it, really. That's the party. It's those bros. And there's a couple points I didn't mention, like the cottage with the girl and the plague in it when they kill some of Guardians. And that happens, of course, but Zoltan actually he left at one point. He says, "This is where we separate." He had to go off. They want to do their own thing. They didn't mean to come with them. And then that's when they found their they went to the village and they saw the girls that they had driving with them had found their husbands and their sisters and their brothers, so they let them go. And then they said, "Okay, this is a good chance for us to depart." And it was somewhere also around the middle where they decided, okay, we're gonna go back up here and we're gonna live our life. And that's what they do. Zoltan leaves with his bird, and they go on, and they They're good. Yeah. So that's about it. That's all I can say, really. I mean, it doesn't seem like a lot, but it took a long time to read that book, and it's a pretty good sized book. It's just when you have it written down like this, you imagine, oh, it only goes from here to here. But if it takes a year and 4 months to get down there, I mean, this must have happened over the course of maybe, 3 months or so? They did say in the book, I just don't remember. But, we never did see what happened at Kaido. Maybe it'll be in the next one. But I think that's it. Now I'm gonna do this from now on, is use the maps and help me keep track of all this politics and the back and forth, because either I'm an idiot or it's just really hard to follow.